Have you ever seen a program on the Science Channel called The Universe? I've watched it a few times, and some of the concepts that they put forth are very difficult for me to imagine. However, I do understand a few of them. I do not have a background in math, and I cannot work with formulas or physics that the scientists use to arrive at or prove their theories. Be that as it is, I have been very interested in reading and obtaining as much information as I could about these theories of the universe. And if I understood them properly, the scientists tell us we live in a flat universe, and they say that they have proven this with laser beams. Be that as it is, scientists continue to expand their theories about dimensions, parallel universes, and infinite parallel universes. Universes forever unbounded, without end, infinite Earths, infinite space. Infinite universes on the same level at different times, infinite universes existing on different levels at the same time. Many of you, if not most of you, probably observed what I am about to write, and I put a few questions to you. Can it be possible that instead of skill, luck is making the correct decision? It might have something to do with the same universe existing on different levels at different times, and some people are capable of not only seeing the future, but they are capable of being in two places at the same time, or in two times at the same place. Does that make a hell of a lot of sense? I don't know. But this brings me to my little story, which is entitled Skill, Luck, or A Look at the Future. And here we go with it. A short blonde-haired man sits at an oval table dealing cards to 8 people. At this particular table, all 8 players are men. The deal shuffles and burns a card, and 2 of the players place chips on the table. The first player places 2 $25 chips for the small blind, and the second player places a $100 black chip for the big blind. Each of the 8 players are now dealt 2 cards face down. The player to the left of the big blind have the same options. They will call, raise, or fold. But if they want to see the next 3 cards, which they call the flop, they must at least call the highest bet or raise that is made. The betting starts with the first player to the left of the big blind and proceeds in a clock-like fashion. And to the left, 1 bet at a time, with no one going out of turn and no one showing their cards. When the betting gets to the player that bet the small blind, he must call, raise, or fold. And when betting gets to the big blind, he must check or call all raises that have been made, or fold, depending on if anybody has bet over his $100 big blind bet. After all bets have been made, the players that have not folded are sitting at the table looking at each other, waiting to see the next 3 cards, and trying to get a read or indication what the other player's 2 down cards might be. Then the dealer buries 1 card and deals or flops 3 cards to the center of the table. And betting starts again with the same options, call, raise, or fold. And the bet of all in is usually scares everybody off. Sometimes it doesn't though, and you see some real gambling take place. By the time all the players have finished betting on the 3 cards that were flopped, and their 2 down cards, one of the players will usually take a guess what one of the other players is holding as 2 down cards. And he does this to obtain a read on that player and to help determine if it is a bad or good hand. Many times this guess is wrong, but it gets an indication or a slight reaction often, and that's what they're looking for when they make these wild guesses. There are 52 cards and 13 cards in a suit, and each player has only seen his 2 cards and the 3 cards that were flopped in the center of the table, leaving 47 unknown cards. What are the odds that any person, could tell the exact cards as to suit or rank that another person has in his hand? If the flop was a 4, 5, 6 and a person made a large bet, you'd put him on a 2-3, a 3-7, or a 7-8. If all three cards are the same suit, you'd put him on a flush for a large bet. And if the pair was flopped, you'd put your opponent on a set of 3 for a large bet. But this isn't always the case, because oftentimes there's a big bluff and the guy doesn't have anything except a lot of money. There are many possibilities as to what your opponent may have in his hand. And yet, even with the long odds, there are people like Daniel Negreanu that are able to tell their opponents exactly what cards they have in their hands. As you watch Daniel and others play their cards, it becomes clear that there are many different kinds of players, and there are many people that can tell what these cards are, even though they shouldn't have the slightest idea. Well, some indication, like I said, depending on the bet and what cards were flopped. But to call the exact two cards, that's a real long shot. And as they play, you can see there are different ways they play. There's the skillful, there's the lucky, and those who lose a hand and come unglued at the seams, losing most of what they have in the next 2 or 3 hands. There are very unlucky players that draw cards that are not worth anything time after time after time, and then when they do draw a good hand, somebody has just drawn 2 aces and a couple aces dealt when the flop comes over. Unlucky is the worst you can be when you're playing cards, and all of these things make you wonder, is it skill or is it something else? And if these repeat winners are using their experiences and figuring the odds on each bet in hand, how do they explain so many of the great Texas Hold'em winners saying, "I knew what was in his hand"? If they knew what was in his hand, it's really not gambling, is it? Good decisions that are made correctly when you have nothing to base your decision on, time and time again, have anything to do with the reality on earth now or in the future. What I'm asking is, could players like Daniel Negreanu, knowingly or unknowingly, be able to see the future? Anyway, I thank you for listening, and I hope tune back in to see my second story. This is Bill Bailey, the author of this great piece of signing off and hoping you have a good